Okay, this is Christina Stacia. My website is christinastacia918.com. This is Listen Next 770. Okay, so as you know, I had a little bit of a hiccup because Gene Roberts and her Manson occult do not want me making reports against them. Now, as you guys know, over and over again, I don't know how many times I have to say this, she blames everything on everyone else when I'm proving that she herself has committed these crimes, but she thinks she's above the law and she's precious and she's got a bunch of minions running around spreading her lies for her. And then she goes and tries to get people upset that she fraudulently blamed. And so then they freak out. And then they're like, let's go get together with Gene Roberts. And they're like, let's go like hot Christina. Okay. Oh my God. We know how to bring in their freaking head. And like today, like I was told over and over again, you can tell that these are, which I know they're criminals. I'm turning them in. But unfortunately they do suck in society into it because society is unsuspecting of it. And it's unfair as heck for her to not be arrested and for me to not be in witness protection. But I understand there's a threat going on. I understand she has people under threat. I understand she's running a hostage racket. So I'm just going to keep making podcasts and keep decoding crime that she commits and go along with everything that I know with her terror plots and schemes, past, present, and future. Keep decoding. And then as I catch her commit crime, present day, I'll just keep making reports against her. And I would think that anybody, normal, sane person would think that anybody that would try to stop me from making a report against her might be a criminal. You might approach them and say, why are you trying to stop Christina from making reports? Because if you're trying to stop her, where should you be instead? And then you let law enforcement talk to you. Actual law enforcement, not helter-skelters. That's what they call themselves. Helter-skelters. Criminals. Everything is like cutesy-fartsy, syrupy, drippy-droppy. Anyway, so there's no reason to stop me. I'm not the criminal, Gene is. I'm making reports to the CIA against Gene. So if you're harassing me, that's illegal. That's against the law. I have a right to make reports against Gene Roberts. You are getting in my way of making reports. So anyway, okay. So, all right. So this is where I want to go. This is going to be crazy. This one, because I've got all kinds of scattered notes and it's all mixed up because I'm like writing things down at the minute as it happens. And some of it is just her ridiculousness that she does in mental telepathy. And it just makes me so mad. I'm like, I'm going to let people know what you're doing. And then some of it is, decode. So, okay, let me see here. This is, hang on. Okay, so let me see if I can figure out where I left off here. Oh my gosh, I'm like doing this live and I'm like looking at my own notes. Okay. Okay, so remember a couple is probably about in the 300 or 400 range or maybe in the 200 range. It's been a minute. Since I talked to her, since I made a report against her for this. But remember when I was going through it, when I was making the podcast and I was describing what all the AI machinery looks like, and how it all works and everything. And then remember in one of my podcasts and talking about how Jean puts herself in my brain and she's sitting at like this terminal. It looks like one of the old, AI, the NASA style, AI, like the real big ones. And she's sitting there and she's got both her arms extended and her hands are inside gloves. And her arms are like extended out and the gloves go up past her, elbow. And somebody was screaming at her in my brain, like cursing her out. And then she like turned and then she like looked at me and I'm like, look, and I can see her in my brain. She looks at me and her hands are like extended out. She's got these gloves on and she's using it to control me personally. And I'm like, so I'm sitting here seeing her do this. And so she just was like, she just like shook her head and just like blew me off. Like, you know, like go to hell. Like she doesn't care. She's above the law. She gets away with anything. Well, anyway, okay. So, not that I would expect her to care. She's a sociopath. That's not what this is about. I know Jean has her little emotional, her little EQ, little fetishes. Anyway, so you could tell I'm like, I've had it with Jean Roberts and her Metinical. Anyway, so, okay, so where she's sitting with those gloves, so she's obviously got to be wearing gloves. They have whole suits that they wear, but I guess at some of these they wear like, they sit at like these terminals and they have like long gloves on. But anyway, and then, so, okay, so that goes to, with the long gloves, that goes to 1986. Okay, so that goes to, Breakfast at Tiffany's and, the Gone with the Wind theme she did around myself and Excel Robinson and her Plenty of Terror plots. Okay, cause guess who's coming to dinner with Sidney Poitier? And look, her arms are extended out too, even. And then there's Sydney and then all crazy and all that, civil and all that. So anyway, so the gloves, I think what's her name is in the movie, Katharine Hepburn. Now, Katharine Hepburn, Kathy ends up becoming, because I told you she's stalking my dad. Okay, so at the time my mom was married to Beth. Oh my God, she did that too. So anyway, so they're thinking of Bethesda, Maryland, what they're telling me, the Pentagon. So anyway, so she controls my whole life from birth. And then she controls, like, my dad, she controls all of us, okay? Like, she's stalking the shit out of me. She's got little minion workers all over Tulsa, and she's got some real snot-ass Charles Manson occultists, like, here locally in town trying to show off, like, they're just, like, gonna just bust out into a Pat Benatar and just, you know, just stop me from telling on them. I mean, they're stupid, they're arrogant, they're ridiculous. And then they're like, let me just keep going with this. Okay, so anyway. So my dad's next wife's name was Kathy. Okay, and then Kathy again, all the Kathy goes all the way back to the early 70s. Okay, and for those who know, we're going to do a DBO here. For those who know, you know what I'm referring to, early 70s. Okay. So, when I'm in grade school. So then, and then it goes forward and then it connects to so she's controlling my first husband's first girlfriends and crushes and stuff. So he had a crush on a girl, named, Kathy, and then her last name was Neal. And then that would go to O'Neill. So then see how Jean's doing a skateboarding reference there. So like she keeps all this cat. So then when I get to, Slidell, she ices my dad's fridge and then, okay, get it, Katharine Hepburn. Okay. And now this is on the fridge. So she ices my dad's fridge. So he's got all kinds of random magnets on the fridge. He's just living life. He's a retired Marine colonel. He's got all kinds of magnets on the fridge. So anyway, she's like showing me when I lived there in Slidell through my eyes, and she's like literally bragging about it. There's a freaking Foley magnet on the refrigerator. Okay, and I know what a Foley is. It's a catheter. So she's like, look. And I'm like, what the freaking heck? And I'm like, I know my dad has not lost his freaking mind. He probably got that from somebody somewhere along the way. Like she wants me to think it's like my dad doing it. Like, I know it's not my dad doing it. My God. So anyway, and then that would go to, Foley's Red Apple sale. And then I think Foley's, and then Foley's, and then Follies, and then even that, a chorus line, and then the World Trade Center. So anyway, so the Foley's, catheter thing is on there. So she controls everything. So Kathy's in my, and then it goes even further to when I'm really little, living in East Globe, which the first part I told you I'm really little, but I was probably in the same time frame, same age. I was probably like 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, maybe 7 or 8. I keep being told I was 6, but I think I might have been like 7 or 8. I was between 6 and 8 years old. So remember I told you I used to read the newspaper, and I would get in the newspaper, I'd lay on the floor, get the newspaper out, and I would go right to the comics. I'd read the comics, I'd do the jumble, I'd read the astrology, I'd try to figure out how to work the crypto ciphers that were in the paper, wondering how in the world I'd ever figure out how to do those. And I'm like in grade school, and I'm just staring at them like, I can do this, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. So like, it just totally enters. So I had all my little favorite newspaper comics. So one of my favorite newspaper comics was Kathy. And I read them. I read the comics all the time. So, anyway, so then that goes to that. And then the Iran hostage crisis. And then remember I told you, I was told that somebody said the Marine, unless it's somebody else, that the Marine is actually a comic book writer, like he writes comics. So anyway, so you see how this whole string of everything, connects, okay? So also, I was like, oh my God, she freaking did that too. So remember, see all my decode and see my podcast on, O.J. Simpson, how she framed O.J. Simpson, how she stalked his whole family. She stalks the Kardashians. She stalks, Kanye West. She stalks that freaking and Kanye West is from, Chicago. So anyway, she stalks the whole, anything to do with O.J. Simpson. So she framed him, she set him up, and then she framed him and set him up again during that robbery incident in Las Vegas. She committed that crime too. And then I decoded where she took his life. Okay, so I'm like, and I decoded several pages of it. So it makes me really angry. It used to make me cry. When I lived in Slidell, it made me freaking cry. I was bawling. I couldn't believe what she was doing to him. But anyway, here is something else that she did. So remember the phrase, that they said in court, if the glove fits, you must acquit. Okay. So that's a cipher. So if you do the initials, you do IFTEGEFSYUMTAT, you get mutate, mutiny, fees, may, greet, now, later, gator, crocodile, Izod, breakfast at Tiffany's, bat glove, holiday flag, holiday, Holly Robinson, and Jean Roberts is Mrs. Robinson. That's her thing. D.B. Cooper, Poltergeist, Coach, Rodney Peter Piper, Run DMC, and then see the previous podcast. So, anyway, so you can see all of these are all links to ciphers, that I decoded of her stalking all of these people, all of these celebrities, everything. So you have to go through all this. So it's all more links. So I'm going to end this recording there. And then I'll start another one.